Li Auto CEO said that by 2035, only 4 new energy vehicle makers will make it and still be alive by then. He named Huawei, BYD, Tesla, and Li Auto. And not on that list is NIO. NIO's not included. With him and that statement, it implies that NIO will not make it by 2035 in Li Auto's CEO's opinion. All right. So recently, right after NIO Day, the next day, right after NIO Day, they had this conference where NIO's CEO and NIO's president were there, and they had a Q&A session with a lot of the media and content creators. And they told him about this and wanted to see what he had to say about this. And here's what he said. He said that, did Li Xiang actually say that? That is actually a little bit impolite. And he offered his own opinions about what it's going to look like in 2035. He said the car industry race is going to be a very long race. It's like a marathon. And he thinks that by 2035, there will be 5 companies within the top 10 automakers that are from China. So 5 of the top 10 automakers will be from China. And he said he will try their very best to be one of them. He also said that all the EV makers right now are pretty much first generation auto manufacturers. He said the CEO of Chang'an, President Zhu, he's still going hard every day, trying to make the best cars. And very importantly, NIO CEO said that they don't ever set the goal of selling however many cars by that year or by this year. But he said that does not mean that they don't have internal targets. All right, they do have internal targets, but they don't set out that goal that we must sell that many cars by that year, which is very, very interesting. And then he also said that competition is very important for the market to progress forward. But he said that violent competition and trash talking and smearing each other will do nobody any good. Speaking about Li Auto isn't short of scandals. Quite recently, there's been an accident in Guangzhou, a L7. The driver was overspeeding, yes, reckless driving. He was basically road racing, and he went up to 180 kilometers per hour. And then there was a truck that came in front of him, and he hit the brakes, and he got the speed down to 96, but ended up colliding onto the truck at 96 kilometers per hour. This is the official Weibo account, all right? And at that speed, apparently, the car, the A pillar and B pillar were completely gone, and the driver is not with us anymore in this world. So this is a very unfortunate accident, and there's been quite a few recently of Li Auto accidents where the A pillar and B pillar have really just not withstood collision, all right? And I don't want to say it's bad quality. Maybe it's too fast, maybe not. I don't know, okay? I have my personal opinions about this. I'm not going to say it. But a lot of people around China are questioning Li Auto about this whole entire situation. So there's that drama that Li Auto has on their plates right now. But we're going a little bit off topic, all right? Back to whether or not NIO will survive or not. Now, a lot of you guys have said that NIO is burning billions of dollars every year, and that is absolutely correct. They're burning billions, spending it on R&D, infrastructure, etc. And it is quite expensive. But keep in mind, this money is all spent on good things, on R&D, to come out with revolutionary new things for the NIOs that will ensure that NIOs are some of the best cars out there. And that sort of is like investing into their future. So in my personal opinion, I think by that time, by 2035, you'll have so many swap stations out there. You'll have so many NIO houses out there. It's going to be like a complete monopoly, all right, for NIO. And by the way, that's 12 years later, man, 12 years later. And I believe NIO's strategy of focusing on their product and putting R&D on places where it matters. For example, safety, autonomous driving, quality of the car, etc. Making sure that NIO owners have a happy ownership experience, that really matters, because NIO's PR team told me NIO has a 70% referral rate. That means 70% of sales comes from existing customers, and a very high repurchase rate, almost 100%. So a NIO owner is most likely to buy another NIO. So that in itself, I think, is quite valuable. It means that what NIO is doing is correct, and NIO's constant R&D is what makes their everything so revolutionary, their chips, etc. And that's extremely valuable. The swapping tech that everybody wants to partner up with NIO for. The reason why I think NIO will make it, all right, another reason why I think NIO will make it is because of user stickiness, all right. It's like people who are stuck on iOS, essentially. It's very hard for them to move to another platform, all right. Even me, like, I'm stuck on iOS. I kind of want to move to another platform, but I can't. I'm stuck in the ecosystem, pretty much. And I think for all NIO owners, we've all been so accustomed to battery swap and the convenience it brings you that we just completely ignore the fact that have to dedicate time to charging EVs. We've been taking that for granted. And I think as this habit gets more adopted by others, people swapping and then realizing, why the hell am I wasting an hour charging the car when I could just do it in 3 minutes? I could have been doing something better for that 1 hour that I'm charging my car for. And as people realize that EREVs are actually not the future, because on paper it sounds so good, gas and electricity, but in actuality you want to be using electricity more, but then you spend more time at the charger because you have a smaller battery, it charges slower, and you have to go to the charger more often. So the actual experience, ownership experience, as time goes by, people will realize which one is the one that's much better, all right? And I think already you're seeing a lot of big auto companies realize that battery swap is the way to go. If you want a true alternative to gas, fast charging is not the way. Battery swap is the way. Of course, fast charging is also very important. That's why NIO has the best fast charging with the ET9, but that's always going to be constricted by the amount of electricity that the grid can supply you. And also, if there's other people charging, you're never going to get peak speed. And also, the last 20% and the first 20%, it has to be charged very slow for a battery. So the true alternative to gas stations in the EV age are battery swap stations. And I think anyone that's driven a car that can do battery swap for at least a couple months will agree with me on this statement. I think infrastructure is also very important to the success of the future. Those that only focus on sales will eventually lose sales to those that have more infrastructure. NIO so far has the most amount of charging and swapping infrastructure at certain areas that are remote, where there's only a couple of chargers way up in the mountain. Those are NIO chargers, and they want to prioritize NIOs first, all right? Then during certain peak hours, they're not going to allow other brands to charge there. Of course, if you're driving another car, BYD or some other car, and you go up there and you really need a charge and you can't charge over there, that's too bad. Too bad, so sad. That guy probably thought, why didn't I buy a NIO? They can complain all they want, but at the end of the day, those are NIO branded chargers. The CEO famously said that short-term success right now in terms of sales does not mean that you'll have a successful future. And also, just because you trip down right now does not mean that you won't have a successful future. I'll leave it off on that statement. Do you think NIO will make it by 2035? Let me know in the comments down below.